Now, if you grew up how I did, these two rabbits will look super familiar to you. This was a childhood show that they played back on Nick Jr. back in the early 2000s, showcasing this kid Max and his sister Ruby and their day-to-day life and the lessons they learned, stuff like that. You know, typical kids show stuff. In all honesty though, something about it always kind of creeped me out. I never really knew what it was. It's just, it seemed like there was something underarching about it that I didn't know what it was. I think after watching this series of videos, I kind of figured out what that is though. It was presented to us in just a basic YouTube poop kind of format. Now, if you don't know what a YouTube poop is, you probably haven't been on YouTube for very long.
Oh hell no, goddamn. Oh.
It was basically an era of YouTube videos where they would take any random clip and just kind of throw a bunch of memes everywhere, all over it. That's pretty much all it was. Just like a comedic experience usually. It's just a bunch of random, what do they call it nowadays? Brain rot? Yeah, it's brain rot, except it was probably more brain rot. However, although this series does just kind of pose as YouTube poop, it does sprinkle in some pretty creepy stuff, some disturbing stuff that you probably would not notice if you just watched it for the comedy. I gotta say, this thing is very disturbing. It has a lot of lore, a lot of backstory, and I don't think I've ever had my childhood ruined this thoroughly before. This series is called Marx and Rhubarb. So basically, this episode starts off with Ruby explaining to Max what they're gonna go do for the day. Apparently there's a subplot about a bus or something like that, and obviously there's a bunch of memes sprinkled in. That's not what's important here, so just kind of ignore that. They basically just attempt to get on a bus for like the first minute and a half, and then they switch over to a tent.
Oh, good! You got the flashlight! And a sleeping bag and a radio!
Ruby has Max bringing her stuff to put in her ritual tent, and after that Max just basically goes to sleep, but after he wakes up something kind of strange happens. No, not even kind of strange, like what is this? Okay, because I don't even know what I'm watching right now, because like, why does she look like that? What are they doing? Did they actually bury their parents? Well, stay tuned, because you'll find out all those answers soon. Ruby then runs into her friend Luis, and I guess they plan on camping in the tent together that night, but for whatever reason that's not actually what ends up happening. She literally murders the hell out of her. Now I'm not sure why she did that. There was no reason for it. It's not part of the subplot. She just kind of did it. Now I know it's mostly YouTube poop, but there is a overarching theme going on like in the background, and it seemed like the more serious events like murder and stuff like that are kind of tied together on the same timeline. However, in that timeline it still doesn't make any sense as to why she would kill her here. Now, the second video is about spending money, I guess. Ruby wants to buy a music box for their grandma, but I guess they don't have enough money for it. So they basically just go on a shoplifting spree.
Listen.
After they find the ballerina box that they were looking for their grandma, Max decides he wants to wander off for a bit, and he goes to rob the shopkeeper for some reason.
Hey Max.
Yeah, it's a little silly right here, but bear with me, because he gives the shopkeeper this, and this is actually really important. Now, this is a wanted poster that states this about Ruby. She's wanted for homicide, kidnapping, and grave robbery. She's said to be using Max to carry out her crimes. And dude, look at her. She doesn't even fit in the photo frame. How is she 37 and 7 foot tall? Like, what the hell is going on in this story? Max seems to just be a regular kid though, so I guess Ruby's the one we're supposed to be watching, but I wouldn't be so sure about that. There is definitely something wrong with both of them. Let's not get that twisted. Anyway, Max shoots this guy and robs him, and I don't know how he didn't bleed out. Since the happy music is still playing and stuff, I don't think this part's intended to be taken seriously, so it doesn't matter. I mean, he doesn't die anyways. You'll see him again. Max then goes to a candy store and wreaks havoc too for some reason. I don't know why. Then he goes back to Ruby. Apparently, she stole the music box by using her laser eyes before and getting it, but then they go into the store to buy the music box. I don't know, bro. This timeline's all over the place. Long story short, they don't have enough money for it. They sue the shopkeeper for assaulting them and stealing their money. They get the music box they wanted, and then she gets arrested.
Walk backwards towards the It's 100.
You'll see her again later, don't worry about it. But during that scene, Max does have a moment with that music box, and it's kinda important. Max and Ruby's parents are seen hanging from a ceiling fan, dead as hell, and it seems like Ruby is the one who was literally pulling the strings. My first instinct was to assume that Max had some kind of PTSD from Ruby murdering their parents, possibly, but I didn't want to jump to any conclusions. This is just disturbing, bruh. We then skip to Grandma's house, where Max decides he wants to make a cake for her, and he ends up going back to the shopkeeper, who's still alive with some bandages on him. He's fine. He wants to make Grandma a special kind of cake with red hot marshmallow squirters on them.
That sounds nasty, bro. What is that?
Yeah, and then this happens, and Max kinda... Just watch.
Marshmallow squirters.
Hello. Now my angel surprise cake with raspberry fluff icing.
Yeah, and apparently Grandma doesn't notice the head with marshmallows on it, but she certainly does notice Luis pop out of the car. Yeah, her dead body just pops out of the car, and she just immediately calls the cops. Ruby does not like that very much, or should I say Rhubarb. And here we get to see her true form.
You have reached a number that has been disconnected.
911.
Is no longer in service.
Yeah, that was freaking horrifying. Now our third and final video just kind of leads us to Ruby, I guess, wanting to fly a kite. Seems pretty tame for this series. That's basically the plot of what's happening here, at least, obviously with a bunch of memes mixed in that I can't really keep track of. And there is one random scene where Max kind of mails her face to the IRS, but I'm pretty sure it didn't actually happen. However, though, Max somehow calls the FBI while playing with the helicopter toy that Ruby gave him. And yeah, they have her surrounded in seconds. Ruby was pissed about this. Also, apparently they call her the East Bunny Hop Killer, and she's racked up even more crimes since last time. Max flies off into the sky, and Ruby is placed under arrest. I know this is all over the place, but keep following me. There is actually a subplot here still. Now, this part happens kind of fast. First of all, you can see what she actually looks like over here versus what she appears to be to us and maybe to Max. Then we move into a cell where she somehow steals a shock baton from a cop somehow, and we find that music box lady from earlier that kind of robbed them. Yeah, she fries her, dude. She fries her. She gets cooked. And then she proceeds to attempt her escape. Now, this is where we actually see the most of Ruby or Rhubarb. We've never seen so much of her before, and with some of these scenes you can really see that she is dangerous, she is psychotic, she needs to be in deeper containment because she is a serious threat. She lured in and mowed down like 20 different guards just inside the prison. Then gets cornered by a massive army and still doesn't die. What is she, bruh? We then swap over to Max, and apparently he's having a dream in bed. I don't know how he got back from the sky, but now he's in his bed, he's dreaming. This is actually happening. In the dream, Ruby states their parents died 30 years ago. However, Max is only 3. She asks, how was she able to conceive you if she had already been dead for 30 years on her day of death? Now that's got to be like the biggest mystery of the entire series so far, because that has a few different implications. And I feel like it has to be one of these 3 things here. Either Max is some type of ghost child that doesn't exist anywhere other than Ruby's mind and she's just imagining him, and maybe that's why he's still 3 and she's aging. That might be a thing and he doesn't actually exist. That's one option. The second option would imply that Ruby could possibly actually be Max's mom, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't think that's the option. The only reason I even had that kind of conclusion was based on the fact that, like, how could Max even be born if not born to the parents that are dead? If he actually exists, someone had to have given birth to him 3 years ago, and the only person that could have done that would have been her, but that doesn't make enough sense. Or this one, which is possibly my favorite theory. Max at the time was still 3, and I personally believe that he did age 30 years in the future with her. However, mentally he did not. I feel he has a severe case of age regression. It's a mental disorder that makes you feel as if you are a lot younger than you actually are. That would also explain why he's able to sometimes distinguish Ruby from Rhubarb and can actually tell how old she is and the crimes she commits. He's not oblivious to these things. However, he still sees himself as a 3-year-old because in his mind he is. It would make sense too, because I would assume this show would be in the perspective of someone like Max. He is the child after all. It is mostly about him and his learning process. Canonically, in the show, they are aged 3 and 7. And if their parents died 30 years ago, it must mean at least this did happen. Ruby must have killed her parents when she was 7. Ruby is a psychopath regardless, but mentally, I don't think Max is all there. Yeah, this is honestly just all so fascinating to me. I honestly love how this was presented. I love how it was kind of tucked behind something a bit more innocent on the surface. To really write a pretty fleshed out and interesting, disturbing story is really dark. I don't know though, I feel like one of my theories were kind of spot on. Realistically speaking, there's only so many options we have here, but I feel like we probably won't figure out what actually happened or the real truth behind it until Rent Cycle comes back with a part 4. And I mean, it is set to release this year if this person's doing it how they have been doing it for the past 3 years. If you guys have any more stories like this though, don't forget to please leave them in the comments and let me know. Also, make sure you guys strike the like button and subscribe. Join the Storm Camp.